This is the Finance and Economic Development Committee of September already, 2022. And President are Mark Weber, Jonathan Smith, and Tim McCarthy. Kayla Tregos, our Deputy Administrator and Finance Director, and our Finance Director, Amber Rathburn. Our Administrator, Bridget Kavitz, here with us as well. So, we'll start with item number one is the approval of the meeting minutes from last month. Any objections?
Nope.
Okay. No, have them approved. And now we're going to talk about accepting the certificate of estimated revenues from the County Budget Commission. Amber?
This is a housekeeping item that we do every year in September. The county sends us, it's basically an estimate of what they think we will receive next year in real estate taxes, broken down from the different funds. The rates are the same and the amounts slightly go up from how they are this year, but again, just housekeeping item to accept from the Budget Commission.
And only in September this year?
We do it once a year. We do revise it throughout the year if there's significant changes.
All right. Okay, all right. Well, that seems pretty straightforward. Anything?
Yep.
All right, 3-0 for that.
Yep.
Now the request, just a request to declare a surplus and sell Raptor septic receiving unit.
I should have asked what would happen if I objected to the second one, just out of curiosity's sake.
They would go down, it would go, it's 2-1.
I know, but I mean, if we voted, just to be the,
You want to do that?
just, no, I don't
For
know.
the record, yeah.
No, I'm just curious, because if we vote it down, we can't really vote it down, it's just housekeeping, right?
Yeah.
I was just out of curiosity.
Yeah,
whatever
we
happened.
didn't accept it.
Formality, yeah, so yeah, we don't want to accept those revenues.
I have to have it back to the county by, I'm going to say the 21st, so.
It's just more of a curiosity
I
question.
just wonder what you want to just upset your life a little more.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because I know that there's certain things that we are required to, it's more of a formality with the, like the budget for the court, things of those nature, so I was just more curious if there's
Yeah.
something so.
We may not get real estate tax next year.
No, okay.
You want
Or
to
anything, or street lighting.
Can we get back to the Raptor?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Raptor septic.
Okay, there is a Raptor septic receiving unit that the sewer department has, and they have declared that it no longer need this item. They reached out to the vendor and got an estimated price of what it would be worth right now, which was $5,000, and Bowling Green is interested in buying this from us. So this is actually two items. It's declaring the unit surplus and then allowing us to sell it to the city of Bowling Green.
Can we sell it to a specific entity, or does it have to go out onto,
It does not. Kate did look into that for us, and as long as council
City
approves
council
it.
can essentially determine a specific purchaser per the Ohio Revised Code, as long as they pass an ordinance.
okay, so I mean, if it was a private entity or a public entity, doesn't matter, it's something that,
Yep.
And what determines the value?
For this item, they reached out, the art sewer department reached out to Lakeside Equipment, who was the original vendor of the purchase years and years ago. And that's an estimated value that we received from them.
Okay.
It's a specialized piece of equipment, so.
And I don't know if anyone in this room knows, but I'm wondering why we don't use it if Bowling Green can or will.
We haven't used it in years,
Really?
so it's just been sitting there, and it turns out that Bowling Green reached out to us and thought that we had had this unit and was wondering if we were still using ours. And our wastewater treatment plant manager said it's just sitting here in the corner.
You have newer technology that does the same thing that is,
Yeah, we use a different system now.
okay. I guess it's getting something for it's better than it's sitting there deteriorating, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then we're good to pass that along?
yeah.
Okay. And then, so that's just the request to declare, and then we'll just go ahead with we just accepted the resolution as well, right? I mean, to pass that resolution on it. 'Cause it's item 3 and 4 on the
Yes.
agenda. Okay.
That's 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Items 3 and 4, you don't have that agenda? You only have 7? Oh, he's the one with only 7.
Maybe
Well,
I put the wrong one
They did,
aside.
and mine they split it. They
Okay.
split up.
I get 2 different ones here, so I just went with the one that I thought was on top.
Oh, good.
So, all right.
Yeah.
Change of agenda. Got it, thank you.
Item 5, I asked to have that on there because this is something that, well, we've had some internal conversations about that. And I was curious about the fees that are charged to, by the city to promoters of special events and maybe a little bit of history on that and where we're going and how we determine those fees.
The
Because
fees are
from my hearing, they're
determined-
kind of high right now.
They're actually based on our overtime rate for our employees. So we are being reimbursed our actual costs for personnel to participate in an event, to provide security and/or Department of Public Service providing an electrician, providing somebody to take out trash during a private entities and/or nonprofit entities event. And those rates are based on the average overtime rate of the personnel in the department based on the collective bargaining agreement, plus any minimum amounts of overtime hours that are required by the collective bargaining agreement. For instance, the police have a minimum of 3 hours of overtime for any overtime event. Department of Public Service, Public Utilities has a minimum of 2 hours overtime for any overtime event. So that means even if they're at the event for 15 minutes, it's 3 hours or 2 hours per our collective bargaining agreement. And then rolled up into that is the standard roll-ups with the exception of healthcare. So it's the FICA, the PERS, and the OP&F, and workers' compensation rolls up into that rate. And then that's what is applied to the event. The event typically turns in a request for a parade assemblage permit, well, whatever the case may be. And then it is routed first to the police department, and they make the determination if security is required because it is on, say, public property versus private property, or limited use of private property or public property. And they make the determination, they fill out a, almost like a, I won't call it an invoice, but it's a one-page sheet typically that lays out, based on like a map of either a race course that's a foot race, or in the case of like the homecoming event that's coming up, the area layout, and then they'll determine the manpower that's needed to either block roads, provide trash collection, use city vehicles to block entrances and exits into the event. And they'll do all those calculations, lay out the personnel, the hourly rate, the number of hours times the number of people, and they will show the math on these sheets and provide that then to the entity when we return the permit back to them. If they do not sign the document agreeing to pay for those services, then the city does not ultimately approve that permit. Since I've been here, I can't think of a time where that has actually happened. Public service, we've added them recently to this because we're finding that they're spending more and more overtime hours at outside events. In particular, say the farmer's market. We now have 2 people at every farmer's market up until about, I think, 8 o'clock. And that's, not a small dollar amount for the city to absorb of city taxpayer dollars. So they, the CBD is aware of that. The chamber is aware of these costs, as is DPI, which are the 3 main, I'll say, event holders in the downtown area. The practice has been going on for years prior to Chief Paez leaving the police force. And with Chief Jones, he's kept that rolling. He's actually updated the information based on the collective bargaining agreement. Not too long ago, the contract went from a 2-hour minimum to a 3-hour minimum. So he's updated that information as well as the actual rates of pay based on what was collectively bargained.
Well, but my question is, doesn't the city have contributing anything to these events to make them successful? I mean, is there...
Allowing them to use city property.
I know, but, I mean, we, like, for instance, the fireworks. What, we contribute to the fireworks, right?
Well, we are the fireworks.
Yeah.
So we bid out the fireworks, we manage the fireworks, we police that. That is a city event.
Okay.
That is not considered any other entity's event except jointly with the city of Maumee, but we actually provide more services for that event than the city of Maumee.
But the community is getting a benefit out of this by having these events. I'm just wondering if why the city can't maybe share these costs a little bit with the promoters to
If
make
I-
the event a little more.
If I can answer just a couple quick questions, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Sorry to interrupt you. What is the cost per hour that we're charging for the officers?
I think on overtime for a 3-hour minimum, it might be $70. I can get those facts for you. Chief Jones, unfortunately, is off ill for the next several days.
Okay, because I would really enjoy kind of getting an idea what these costs are, because I'm looking at like the city of Columbus, an officer, they have an hourly, and it's not apples to apples because it's a much larger community. But I'm seeing that they charge $59.50 an hour for the use of their officers. Do we require them to use the officers in the events? So we have that as a requirement?
Certain events, not all events, need to have officers present.
Okay. I would love to get a breakdown of the cost. I would like to know how much we have charged over the last year, if that's okay.
Yeah, we can do it we have documentation for each event that gets a permit.
And I'd be curious to see if this is, and I don't know the answer to this, so out of curiosity, I would like to know about Maumee, Bowling Green, or
I can tell you, as a matter of fact, Bowling Green does charge, because I think for the event that they just held, that somebody held last weekend down there, I think they spent $30-some thousand and reimbursed the city those costs for police.
Okay.
I can tell you that Maumee does as well. They even charge for use of the vehicle. They have a
Correct.
set rate where they add that in as well.
Does Maumee contribute anything towards these events?
No, it's the same as here. We charge for our extra cost, I will say. Like Bridget said, the overtime, the use of.
Yes, and we do contribute in the sense that if work can be done during the business day for that event in prepping, then we do that on city time, and we don't charge them for that. For instance, if we drop off barricades during the day, extra trash cans, have dumpsters set up, make sure that electricity is working in all the outlets. If it's something like the Winterfest, we'll do that all day long during the day if we can. But when those events require making sure, say that if the power goes out, that there's going to be someone there to fix it, well, we have to bring our electrician in on overtime. So that is something that we request reimbursement for. Police is a little bit different. Typically, they can't do much, I'll say, pre-event work. Typically, their work is going to deal with actually patrolling during the event, and/or they're dealing with making sure that all the liquor control laws are followed if it's an event that has alcohol.
Correct me if I'm wrong, a couple of years ago, did the council approve to pay for the police for the holiday parade?
Yeah, it'll work roughly.
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
Correct.
Here's,
That one and only?
That's the one and only.
And now, but that's on an ongoing basis, right? Or do we just do it for 1 year?
No, I believe the way it was phrased, it was as long as he is hosting that.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And Bridget, the list you're going to prepare then will tell us also the events that
Yes.
actually.
Yeah. What I'll do is I'll just make, I'll have my assistant make copies of the permit that has the documentation attached to it, and we can just scan and email it out to the community.
Yeah, that'd be good to know.
I would-
It's probably tens of thousands of dollars.
Are involved.
I'd be curious on that, because I know there's several events that I think have been a good benefit to the community, and I think that there's something that we could look into that.
That's the way I'm seeing it.
And one of the things I'm looking at is the city of Ann Arbor has a fund for an application for the reimbursement of the city costs that they could apply for. And I'm wondering if that might be something that we could look at as a community, that we can set a certain amount of funds aside to let these events apply to have those costs reimbursed. you know, just get somebody.
Budgeting item.
Yeah.
It's just money.
You're just moving money from here to here, but yes,
Yeah.
I mean,
But because I think that we should do more for some of these events that we know that are benefit to the community, but there may be events coming that aren't necessarily a benefit.
well, and some of the events are pure fundraising events. That was a fundraising event for that entity treated the same as a non-fundraising event.
Sure.
Well, and one of the things that I know brought this up in here, because I talked to Mark and asked him to bring this on as well, is on the CVB as part of the farmer's market, there was a conversation that the city's going to be charging the farmer's market now for the use of police and services moving forward.
We do not charge for police,
We're going to be charging I think it was
for
$1,000.
public, it was for public service, is my recollection.
Well, CDB should have money to pay for some of this stuff. They should.
Because the amount of trash that's generated cannot be left unattended.
Well, I will say that
And if the CDP would get volunteers to collect that trash and put it in dumpsters,
Mm,
great.
Well, there's been discussions with,
well, the CVB may be, but there are some people within the CVB board that are saying if it's going to start costing us money, why would we want to continue to do it?
No.
that's exactly right.
And so there's-
Farmers market doesn't really bring out-of-town people to spend the night in their
There's some
hotels.
pushback from the hotels on continuing if it's going to continue to cost money. They see that as not a strong investment for
Mm,
their goals.
And as popular as the farmers market is, it's not something I want to see.
No, you don't want to joke.
And you could say for the CDP that the city is doing their part because the city council, in their wisdom, elected to distribute half of the collections of the hotel tax to the CDP for its use.
So I think we have
I
to.
think that's, I think
If
it's,
you do certain parts of that code, you do not have to allocate any funds to the CDP. There are certain portions of the hotel tax that can be added that can be solely kept by the city of Perrysburg.
Can the city keep it, Bridget? or-
50%.
Correct, there's 3 different taxes. We used to call them A tax, B tax, C tax. And depending on the ones you levy, one requires you to share that with the CDB for the promotion for certain aspects that they have to use it for, but the other 2 can be portions that are collected and be retained by the city of Perrysburg.
Oh, interesting. I've had some recollection that defaulted to Wood County.
I believe the tax
CDB
would be
or
the one that would be section B of that section of the High Revised Code, and that's the one that has to be shared with the Convention and Visitors Bureau.
something. Okay.
well, can we keep this on the next month's agenda as well, then get back to
And
this?
I will gather up this information and
Okay.
talk to Chief Jones and send it out to the committee, if not this week, early next week. would be my
Because I think that there are some events that happen within this community that when you know what you know, then there's a benefit. And if there's some things that we can look at on working with those costs to continue to promote having those events, I think is always key and beneficial. Something that brings the community together. And the things that we want to, we did that for the holiday parade.
Yeah.
Why don't we look at, even if it's just an application, it's easy enough to let them know that there's an ability that they can get it back if we know that it's something that's benefiting either
Yes.
local businesses, the community, and all really.
We should be able to put a value on that benefit to the citizens and the taxpayers. And maybe help out. And I know the chamber doesn't have the kind of funds that the CWB has, so we don't want to, bankrupt them either.
Well, if the CDB wants that though, we need to get a full, complete accounting from that, which has been a 10-year struggle or more.
No, we have a whole news director, I think. we
Oh,
got
it's
I've heard
it's
that.
way better now, and we have great oversight on that now.
Okay.
And we have monthly reports and meetings.
Okay, are you on the CDB?
We both are, yeah.
We both are, yeah. And
That's good to hear.
Yes, it's
It was a black hole before.
not anymore.
Oh,
Those
is it?
days are gone. Yes.
There's a lot of accountability now.
Yes, very transparency and accountability. It's,
Okay.
I'll say one benefit the city has on an event that shuts down the Louisiana Avenue is, as soon as the event's over, they have a nice empty street to do their street sweeping that they normally would have to work around vehicles. So they always take advantage of that. As soon as the tents go down, they get that street sweeper out right away, and that's something that they would normally have
Clean
to.
it, spick and span.
Yeah, so that's a
It's
big
the shine of the
benefit.
roads, right?
So, yeah, so put a little value on that anyway. All right, let's talk about it again next month, then, all right? Okay, and then my favorite thing is the then and now purchases. Yes, so let's talk about
For this month, there were 9 purchases over $3,000 that the departments did not have purchase orders before the purchase was made. I think everyone has a list. If anybody has questions on any of those.
I did not. Those all look pretty straightforward to me.
Does the court know what they need to do?
They do.
I mean, I know you're trying to educate the departments here in the
Yes,
city.
and we are also educating the court as well.
Okay.
I think we have a meeting yet this week, Kayla, this week or next week, with Scott to discuss the new software.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have reiterated over that we would like them to follow our policy. I know that they don't have to, but we are working with them. I think we have a good relationship with Scott, so hopefully we can make progress.
Okay.
So really, someday these are all going to go away then, and get caught up, right?
Hopefully,
Yes.
Hopefully.
hopefully.
If there's nothing else, it would be a lesser amount.
Yes, yeah, and they're really not all that many as it
Yeah,
is.
there will always be emergencies, but we're trying.
All right, moving on to your finance director's report. The expenditure now, also with the launch of the new software next month, this is going to look different.
This will look different after October, so September might look the same-ish.
Okay, all right, but we will get those resolutions on this.
Yes,
along.
and as we've been training departments, we have a specific place, it's called Notes,
Mhm.
where we want them to put the ordinance if it did have specific approval from council, and then we can run reports on it. And we are letting them know that that's for council, so please do this.
That's great to know.
Yep,
Sure.
it's on our instructions.
It's easy. So, in the meantime, we still have a couple questions. Do you have some questions on the 5,000?
Just was it 174373 with the home sanitary sewer grant? There was no vendor name. I'm assuming that's just for a resident that was
Correct.
reimbursed.
Yes.
Well, it'd be nice to see that happening.
I just had 2 questions. What is temporary labor as opposed to HR and demand summer rep?
Temporary labor is more, there are some refuse
It's
people that we
in
have.
the service department, it's hiring individuals, typically not students. They're usually out of college, but they'll come in and they'll use like our very large mowers and assist in mowing the parks versus summer rec, which is actually doing the
Program.
programmatic aspect. And we do have some summer seasonal employees that are high school or college age, but we don't run those through a temp agency like we do somebody who's not in school because of the rules for unemployment. So those that cannot file for unemployment, which are essentially students, we just strictly hire those, they go through our payroll. But those that could be eligible for unemployment, we have found in the past the wrong way, that when some of these individuals left our seasonal employment, they filed for unemployment and then the city had to pay unemployment for a period of time. So now we run them through a temp agency.
You run them through HR and demand, or?
They go through HR, but HR coordinates with like Cardinal Staffing or Renville or something. And we actually pay the temp agency, not the employee directly.
Yeah, okay. Back in the day, I thought we had like retirees and stuff doing it.
Yes, and those retirees go through a temp agency if we still have them,
Oh.
because they are eligible to file for unemployment. And we've been burned once or
Mark,
twice.
you know, like your time in the summer, maybe you'd want to.
Yeah, heck yeah. That'd be fun.
He's busy building a house.
Yeah, next summer, we'll be a little more free.
Write books, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. You had another one, Steve?
Just what, the 80,000 to the wide, is that,
For the pool.
yeah, I mean, was that all the cost for the year?
Oh, no. Oh, no. I think this year's
It used
cost
to be
we're
like
gonna
1.3
run
million.
about 260 some thousand,
Okay,
and we lose about 170
okay.
on that proposition.
There you go, and it's a benefit for the taxpayers,
Mhm.
just like those events are.
You don't want my opinion on a municipal pool.
But
It's the second go around, but they're very expensive.
Okay.
If there's any pool in any community that actually makes money.
No.
I have one, Amber, 173874, the second one down, that $8,000. What, it's engineering services. I was just curious what project that was.
That is,
Utilities project?
it is utilities, a new connection with the city of Toledo.
Okay. And going down a couple more, the air compressor units.
That is the water department.
Water, okay, what, oh, that at their building?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And about halfway down, the shade systems, DWA Recreation, what was that, what park was that? You know?
Well, that's part of probably the playgrounds.
Is that-
Not part of the playground,
That's the same
but
company.
I think these were the ones, these may have gone up at Rivercrest.
Oh, we had those.
There was some
Years
shades that were installed this year. Let me circle that and I'll send an email out to the.
12 by 16 too. 'Cause I know Rivercrest had theirs.
Yeah, let me find out were I don't know if they're for the pickleball courts?
Yeah, well, are
I don't
we?
think we've paid for those yet.
I'm thinking for
That's right, I'm
municipal.
saying Rivercrest, maybe by the baseball.
Oh, municipal.
Yeah, we'll find out.
We'll
I
find
was
out.
just curious. And then just a couple down from that is the pickleball court work there, 23,000. Was that for the drainage?
That's just part of the overall contract.
I see that up here.
Yeah, the drainage was down there.
Oh, okay. Then what's this one up here? This and just infrastructure. Just,
The G6 infrastructure, they're the ones who are actually constructing the courts.
oh, okay. I thought Rotary is paying for this.
No, they'll be writing us a check
Yeah.
for
So
up to
the
$300,000.
city is running the project and paying it through the city, and then Rotary is running a check to the
All right.
city.
Yeah, they didn't have, with the
Jeff Norman.
retirement of Jeff Norman, they had nobody they felt out of Rotary who could kind of manage the project.
Perfect. And
Norman's out of this town.
my kids just bought me everything I need to play pickleball, so I'm gonna start
Gotta
playing.
get
Yes.
to it, Mark.
Yes.
It's a happening thing.
I know, and I don't want to be left out. I got FOMO, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Councilman Weber, Ms. Strago, looked up the shade, and it's actually the shade that was in this year's budget for the fire department and fire headquarters to shade their back patio. That face east,
Yes.
that's what that structure is.
Okay, great.
Hey, Bridget, the refuse toters, like just shy of 16,000, are they, just new houses brought into the
New
city?
houses and replacements.
Wow.
We don't buy them very often, but when we buy, we buy a larger quantity because of the cost. And I think it was like a volume discount.
I can't remember, when those were put out, did the individual homeowners, didn't we pay something for them,
The city actually paid them and then just distributed them, so it's at no cost to the homeowner.
or? Oh, okay, I didn't remember, okay.
I think if it's a,
Because I remember there's some choices to size.
there's a choice as to size typically, and then I think if they want an additional toter, I think they pay that.
Oh, okay.
But for the initial recycling and refuse toters, they're not charged anything.
I can attest to that.
Yes.
Because
So that you don't get charged for first.
for your first supply, your
Yeah.
first,
We're charging our property taxes and everything else. But
yeah, you're paying one way or another.
no.
That's all I have on that. Remember?
Okay. And my last item is the health insurance fund. We are just over $1 million in that fund. Finally. So,
Makes Amber breathe better.
we actually met with our insurance consultant last week, and they hope to have rates to us soon, so we should be able to get rates to employees and actually know the city's cost for next year, pretty close, so those are coming soon.
It's incredible. What a jump from December 20.
Yeah.
Wow. It's great news. And it seems like healthy employees, hopefully.
How's what's the name of the place that we partnered with? The doctor's office? What was?
Oh, we care.
Yeah, we care, yeah. How's that? I'm assuming that's helpful with these funds because it's consistent with the cost, or are we seeing good
It's hard to
savings?
determine. We have found that now that we no longer have our health care through Front Path was very willing to share data. Now that we're with United Health, they deem the data proprietary, so we don't know everything that we would like to know. But I think we're going into the last year of our, we're going to last year, or we're in the renewal year.
This is the renewal, the one renewal.
One
year.
renewal year for We Care. And we've been talking with them and our partners extensively about data and the data we can get. I think they've instituted some measures to try and get us better data, but we still do have somewhat of a void when it comes to medication costs through like United Healthcare and what we've avoided spending because they won't give us that data. And we're also trying to strongly encourage those employees that we have and that our partners have that have never tried the clinic to definitely try the clinic, at least just to do a health risk assessment, to get in front of those people and to understand you can still keep your primary care doctor and go to this clinic and pay a lot less money than you would by either going to your doctor or ending up at urgent care.
What's the utilization rate?
It is low, and I don't know if, I'm looking at Amber only because we were in the same meeting together.
I'm not sure, actually, that, like Bridget said, we're having trouble getting information. I don't think the utilization rate is what we call the utilization rate. There's some, because they're saying, I want to say about 27%. And,
Is some available appointments.
but they haven't, yes, of the available appointments. So it's not really of our total population here at the city. I don't have a good grasp on what percentage is using.
I would like to know that if we're going to continue it because
Yes.
if it's costing us money, the city money, it might be something.
And Amber, I will say Amber is bird dogging this, so
Okay.
On it.
she's on it.
That's why we hired you.
And we're having, like Bridget said, we're gonna have quarterly meetings with the other entities, with schools and everything, and try to get information and see what we can do.
Because we ultimately know the benefit it could have and
Long
can
term.
have long-term. It's just, as you know, it's hard to change people's minds about trying something new, especially when it comes to a doctor. I mean, just even think of your own health and or your own car insurance. I mean, how often do you go and, except maybe for Councilman Smith, re-review your car insurance and your who's holding your policy and your carrier? I mean, you kind of get stuck in that groove and it's hard to get out of it. So it's even worse, I think, with healthcare. I mean, you're so used to, this is my doctor for this is my doctor for this, and you don't think about, stepping out of your comfort zone and trying something different that may actually be better or complementary to the services that you're already getting. So we've been trying to work on that and be some internal cheerleaders, and again, collecting the data so that we can look at Amber and go, can we justify this to ourselves to then take it to council? Because if we can't look at each other in the face, we can't bring it to you. As sad as that might make us.
All right. And I glanced at Steve's report too, and it doesn't look anything too abnormal there in the.
Yeah, except it shows total refunds, about $500,000. Has that Ohio issue resolved itself, or?
It is not, there's still
Extra
some.
million something or?
There's still some refunds that could be out there. I would say this increase is partially due to that. Another thing to keep in mind is we still do have that $1.2 million.
Yeah, that's what
it is.
I thought it was, I forgot the amount, but it's 1.2.
There's two of them. One was 1.2 and one was like 200,000. So you're looking at 1.4. But even as we've gone through budget, we're keeping that in mind. And
So that 22% increase again is not real, because we're still
No.
assuming that 1.4 is good.
right,
Because Steve usually gives us the real net.
I don't know where I wrote that down, but I want to say around 13%.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Any other business to come for finance?
No, Sure.
All right, we adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ingrid.